Hi, I'm Malc from Hartley, Wintney, and I'm here in Athens at the moment. Been here a few weeks to work with refugees. Athens has got a rich history going back thousands of years, and right now, not only does it have its cultural history, but it's got thousands of refugees from many different and diverse cultures here in the city, and I'm privileged to work among them at close quarters. So in Hartley Wintney, we come from a Christian community. Here, I have opportunity to see the refugees practicing their faiths and their religious duties in all sorts of ways. And it causes me to ask, actually, what is important to God? It certainly isn't my place to judge others. But in asking what's important to God, I've been asked to record some thoughts about Samuel. And Samuel said that the Lord isn't looking for sacrifices and burnt offerings, but he's looking for obedience. And I wonder what that means. I wonder how that works out in real life. So Samuel lived between 1000 and 1100 BC, and we're told that through his obedience to God, he won a special place and had a special dialogue and understanding of what God wanted. At that time, the Israelites, they were fed up of not having military victories through not having a king, and they said they wanted a king. And Samuel prayed to God and said, is this a right thing to do? He was a leader of the community. And eventually God said, well, if that's what they want, let them have it, but actually it will do them no good. So Samuel did appoint a king of the Israelites, and surprise, surprise, things didn't go that well. So in those days, when things went wrong or they felt a guilty conscience, then they would buy a sacrifice and burn it as an offering to God, either to say sorry or to ask for him to steer things on a better course. I'm a Christian, and I do believe that there's a God who created this world that we live in, a God who created each of us. And I think if I was God, I'd be really insulted if people just did a financial exercise and then walked away no different to say they were sorry or to ask for something better. And it's in that context that Samuel's famous words of God doesn't desire sacrifices and burnt offerings, but he desires obedience. It's in that context that those words were said. 1,000 years later, Jesus on this earth, he was talking to the religious leaders of the day, and he said, this people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. They were into burnt offerings and sacrifices as well. Jesus echoed that thought, that just doing religion isn't enough for God. He sees into our hearts, and if we're superficial with him, the only people we're fooling are ourselves. So I asked myself, well, what's the equivalent today? What's the equivalent of burnt offerings and sacrifices? Well, I don't know. I think it's different for different people. It may be that going to church, but not actually living each of our days before the God who looks into our hearts. That might be, going to church might be a burnt offering, something that placates a God, or we think placates a God. It might be just doing a little bit when actually we know that we should be doing a bit more, whatever that is. It might be that we buy our wife a bunch of flowers, but we rarely offer to do the washing up. It might be that we throw a bit of money in a hat now and then, or give to a charity, but actually we don't want to do more than that. But what's your heart telling you? Because God speaks to your heart. You'll know if you're doing burnt offerings and sacrifices in some area of your life, because you'll feel uncomfortable. See, I'm a Christian, And if you're a Christian listening to this, then the challenge for us is to get real with God and be real with God on an hour-to-hour, day-to-day basis, as best we can. Do I fall into the trap of burnt offerings and sacrifice? Of course I do. But I'm trying not to, and with God's help, I'll keep on doing that. He's given us His Spirit to understand what we should be doing. If you're listening to this and you're not a Christian and thinking, what's this bloke rabbiting on about? Well, actually, you don't need to do religion to get right with God. Jesus Christ came and He offered Himself in our place to be to be put right with God. We can invite Jesus into our life. We can ask for the guidance that God has said His Spirit will give us. And He gives us it each day and in every situation. We can know what we should be doing. So my challenge to you, whether you're a Christian or not a Christian, is don't try and fob an all-knowing God off with something that's superficial. Try not to. Try and be honest before God. Don't do burnt offerings and sacrifices, but honor God with the obedience that you show in your life, and obedience through listening to what He tells you through His Spirit. Thank you for listening.